Sir, the manager called. You need to pay for that water and leave.
I already paid. The receipt's right here in my hand.
Don't walk away from me. Put your hands where I can see them.
I'm holding groceries. I'm trying to show you the receipt.
Okay, you know what? You are under arrest. Drop the bags.
The fluorescent lights of Save Mart buzzed overhead as Master Sergeant Jamal Williams pushed his cart toward the self-checkout. It was Thursday, 3:47 p.m. in Columbus, Ohio. Jamal's mother had recently had hip surgery, and he was doing her weekly grocery shopping. The cart was full of milk, eggs, chicken, bread, vegetables, and a case of bottled water. Everything he had was paid for, and he held the receipt in his hand. But at that moment, his ordinary afternoon was about to turn into a nightmare. As he reached for a water bottle from the case, thirsty from walking around the store manager, Laura Kensington, spotted him. She was 52, had been the Save Mart manager for 4 years, and had caught her share of shoplifters. When she saw Jamal drinking the water, she made a snap decision. In her mind, a black man drinking in the store before leaving meant theft. She didn't check the receipt. She didn't check the cameras, she assumed. "Excuse me, sir. Did you pay for that water?" she asked, walking quickly toward him. "I already paid," Jamal said politely, holding up the receipt. "Everything is on here." Laura didn't take it from him. "We need to go to the office to verify," she said firmly. "I paid. You can check right here," Jamal insisted. "The timestamp is clear. I paid 3 minutes ago." "You need to cooperate, or I'll call the police," Laura warned. Jamal's jaw tightened. He had faced combat in Afghanistan and deployed to dangerous zones, but this situation made him furious in a way combat never had. "I will not be treated like a criminal for shopping while black," he said. His voice was steady but cold, tired of constant assumptions, tired of always proving his innocence. Laura dialed 911. 2 blocks away, Officer Todd Harrison, 29, 5 years on the force, was responding to a retail theft in progress call. Within minutes, Todd entered the store, uniform crisp, hand resting on his weapon, posture rigid and commanding. Laura hurried up to him. "Thank God you're here. That man drank water without paying and refuses to go to the office." Todd looked toward Jamal, a black man in jeans and a t-shirt, arms crossed, calm but firm. Todd's mind made the judgment immediately. Accusation plus skin color. That was enough. "Sir," the manager called. "You need to pay for that water and leave," he said, voice low but commanding. "I already paid. The receipt's right here," Jamal said, holding up the paper. Todd barely glanced at it. "Don't walk away. Hands where I can see them." Jamal froze, groceries in hand. "I'm showing you the receipt. I'm not resisting." "Drop the bags," Todd barked. Jamal slowly set down the groceries. He had been trained to stay calm, but he could feel the heat rising. His shoulder, injured in combat, twinged with pain as he moved. "Officer, the receipt proves I paid. Security cameras will show everything. I haven't done anything wrong." Todd snatched the receipt from his hand, glancing at it for barely 2 seconds. "How do I know this is yours?" "Could be anyone's," he said. Jamal stared. "You're serious? The timestamp matches my purchase. The cart number is mine. Every item is scanned. The footage will prove it." Todd's expression darkened. "Turn around. Hands behind your back. You're under arrest for retail theft and disorderly conduct." "What? I haven't done anything wrong," Jamal shouted, staying calm but firm. "I request a supervisor before any arrest. I am a master sergeant in the U.S. Army, on leave, doing my mother's grocery shopping. I have done nothing wrong." Todd laughed, dismissing him. "Everyone wants a supervisor." "I said I am a master sergeant. You will wait for a supervisor." "Sure you are. Turn around." Other customers had stopped shopping. A young man pulled out his phone to record. An elderly woman stepped forward. I watched him scan every item and pay, she said firmly. Todd ignored them. Step back, he said to the bystanders. Jamal was cuffed, painfully tight, hands behind his back. His injured shoulder throbbed. His groceries sat in the cart, untouched. The scene drew more witnesses, all silent or whispering. The humiliation of being treated like a criminal for something he hadn't done made his stomach knot. Todd began walking him toward the patrol car. Let's go. My groceries? Jamal asked, trying to remain civil. You should have thought of that earlier, Todd said coldly. The two walked through the store past the checkout where he had paid, past Laura, who now looked unsure, past the small crowd of shoppers, and out into the afternoon heat. Jamal sat in the back of the patrol car, handcuffed, plastic seat pressing into him, the smell of disinfectant overwhelming. He felt rage building. Not the hot rage of combat, but the cold, cutting rage of injustice. Todd started his report, radioing dispatch that one subject was in custody for retail theft. He made Jamal sound confrontational, uncooperative, and dangerous. Meanwhile, the young man with the phone played his video to Laura. She watched Jamal carefully scanning every item, paying, and grabbing his receipt. Her face went pale. Laura rushed to the office and pulled up security footage from 4 angles. Jamal had scanned every item, paid, taken his receipt, opened the water only after completing payment. She had made a terrible mistake. She ran to the patrol car. Officer, I need to talk to you. He paid for everything. Security footage proves it. He has a valid receipt. Todd stared. You called 911. He was uncooperative. I was wrong. The footage proves he paid. He did nothing wrong. Please let him go, Laura pleaded. Todd shook his head. He refused to cooperate. Still a violation. Laura stepped back. The arrest had gone too far. Todd drove Jamal to the station. 14 minutes of silence, each minute heavier than the last. Jamal knew he had to wait for a lawyer. Words now could be used against him. At the station, Officer Miguel Alvarez, a Marine veteran himself, saw Jamal's military ID. He's active duty. Miguel asked, holding it up to Todd. Yes, Todd said curtly. Miguel read Todd's report. Where's the stolen merchandise? Todd faltered. The store has it. Miguel shook his head. He has a receipt. The store manager now says he was wrong. I'm not processing this. Call your supervisor. Todd reluctantly called Lieutenant Daniel Crossman, a 20-year veteran. Crossman read the report, looked at Jamal's ID, and said, You're being released immediately. No charges will be filed. Jamal listened quietly. I want documentation. Names, badge numbers, all reports, footage. I want this in writing. Arrested without probable cause. Crossman nodded. You will get all of it. I apologize for this. It should never have happened. 2 hours after leaving Save Mart, Jamal walked out of the station. His mother was waiting, hip still recovering, worried and scared. She simply said, I'm so sorry, baby. Jamal didn't respond. His mind was already working, planning his next steps. He knew the military would support him. Quick question for you watching. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. And if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button because the story is about to get even more intense. You won't want to miss what happens next. The morning after his release, Jamal Williams contacted the military's legal assistance office at Fort Benning. He was still on leave, still processing the humiliation of being handcuffed for something he didn't do. Captain Rachel Morgan, a sharp and experienced military lawyer, took his call. She had handled similar cases before. Wrongful arrests of active duty personnel, civilians accusing the military of involvement and civil rights violations. "You have witnesses, video, and proof of payment," she said. "This is a clear civil rights violation. The military will back you in pursuing this. We take this seriously." Jamal gave her all the details. The 4 camera angles from SaveMart, the receipt, and witnesses' accounts. Captain Morgan immediately drafted a formal complaint to the Columbus Police Department's Internal Affairs Division. She also sent copies to the Department of Defense Legal Affairs Office. When an active duty master sergeant with 2 Bronze Stars is wrongfully arrested, the military doesn't let it slide. Within 48 hours, the Columbus police chief received calls from 2 separate military legal offices. The message was clear: handle this properly, or the city would face serious federal scrutiny. Internal Affairs opened an investigation the same day. Lieutenant Isabel Moreno, a 15-year veteran of the department, was assigned. She was known for being thorough and fair, someone who would follow evidence without bias. Moreno immediately requested all footage from SaveMart. 4 angles showed Jamal shopping, scanning each item, paying with his card, taking the receipt, and opening a water bottle afterward. The evidence was clear. She interviewed multiple witnesses. The elderly woman who had watched Jamal scan every item confirmed he had paid. The young man's cell phone video matched the security footage exactly. Other shoppers corroborated what they had seen. Laura Kensington, the store manager, admitted her mistake. "I'd assumed he hadn't paid," she told Moreno. "I didn't check the receipt. I didn't verify with the cameras. I called 911 too quickly. It was wrong." Moreno turned her attention to Officer Todd Harrison. She sat down with him in an interview room and asked, "Explain why you arrested Master Sergeant Williams despite him showing a valid receipt and witnesses saying he paid for all items." Todd hesitated. "The manager reported theft. He didn't cooperate. I was following procedure." "But the receipt proved payment. The footage proves he paid. Multiple witnesses say he did nothing wrong. Why continue with the arrest?" Todd shifted uncomfortably. I was responding to the call." "Did you even check the receipt carefully? Did you review security footage before making the arrest?" Moreno asked. "No. I took the manager at her word. He refused to comply," Todd said. Moreno studied him carefully. She had access to 5 years of his service records. Complaints against Todd revealed a clear pattern. Citizen complaints at a rate 60% higher than other officers. 3 cases stood out. Minorities wrongly stopped, questioned, or accused without probable cause. Arrests of Black or Hispanic individuals were far more frequent than for white citizens in similar situations. She analyzed the numbers. Over 5 years, Todd's discretionary arrests involved minorities 87% of the time. Use of force reports included minorities in 15 out of 17 incidents. The patterns were undeniable. His actions in the SaveMart incident were consistent with years of bias-based decisions. Moreno compiled her 42-page report. Her conclusion: Officer Todd Harrison demonstrated a consistent pattern of racial bias and failed to follow proper procedures. Immediate termination is recommended. Todd was called for a pre-termination hearing as required by his union contract. He brought a union representative. He argued that he had simply followed a manager's report, but the evidence was overwhelming. Jamal had paid, the store confirmed the mistake, witnesses supported him, and the pattern of bias in Todd's past incidents left little room for defense. The hearing lasted 3 hours, ending with a unanimous decision. Todd Harrison was terminated from the Columbus Police Department, effective immediately. Todd's life unraveled quickly. His attempts to find a new law enforcement job failed. 9 departments rejected him, citing his termination for false arrest and racial bias. He lost his apartment, his fiancée left, and he eventually took a security job earning far less than he had as a police officer. He told anyone who would listen that Jamal had been uncooperative, that he had followed procedure. But he refused to acknowledge the choices he had made, assuming guilt based on skin color, ignoring evidence, and pressing the arrest. Meanwhile, Jamal filed a federal civil rights lawsuit with support from the military's Legal Assistance Office. The lawsuit named both Todd Harrison personally and the city of Columbus as defendants. The claims were clear: false arrest, malicious prosecution, violation of Fourth Amendment rights, violation of 14th Amendment equal protection, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The city's legal team reviewed the evidence. Security footage from 4 angles, multiple eyewitnesses, Jamal's receipt proving payment, a veteran with 2 Bronze Stars, and an officer fired for racial bias. They knew this would be disastrous if it went to trial. Settlement negotiations began immediately. Within 2 weeks, they reached a settlement of $340,000. The settlement also required policy changes. Mandatory review of security footage before any arrests in retail theft cases, body cameras for all officers, quarterly audits of arrest data by race, and independent reviews of all use of force incidents. Additionally, the police chief had to deliver a public apology with Jamal present. The apology was 3 months after the arrest. Jamal arrived in full military dress uniform. His ribbons and medals told the story of his 15 years of service, 2 Bronze Stars, and a Purple Heart. The chief read a prepared statement acknowledging Jamal had been wronged and committing to reforms. Jamal then stepped to the microphone. "I served this country for 15 years. I've been deployed to combat zones twice. I've been wounded defending American freedom. And I came home and got arrested for buying groceries. Not because I did anything wrong, but because I am a black man in America. That tells you everything about how we are seen. Not as veterans, neighbors, or citizens, but as threats. That has to change." The press conference went viral. News outlets across Ohio covered the story. The Save Mart footage showing Jamal scanning groceries, paying, taking his receipt, and being handcuffed spread widely. Millions watched the entire incident. Save Mart fired Laura Kensington and issued a public apology, changing their policy to require verification before calling the police for suspected theft. Todd Harrison's career was over. Jamal returned to active duty and was promoted to Sergeant Major. He continued helping his mother but avoided Save Mart entirely. His story became a case study. Police academies across the country began using the Save Mart footage to train officers on bias and proper procedure. 1 bottle of water, 1 receipt, 1 assumption, 1 officer's bias. It had cost careers, caused lawsuits, and forced reforms. Jamal's message was clear. Accountability matters. Justice isn't always immediate, but when evidence, witnesses, and courage combine, systems can change. The settlement was only the beginning of Jamal Williams' fight for justice. Even after receiving $340,000 and a public apology from the police chief, the story had ignited national attention. Social media exploded. Clips of Jamal being handcuffed while holding groceries went viral, with captions highlighting racial profiling and abuse of authority. Hashtags like #JusticeForJamal and #ArrestedForWater trended across platforms. News outlets from Cleveland to New York picked up the story. National publications highlighted the absurdity and injustice of a decorated combat veteran being arrested over a $2 bottle of water. Interviews with Jamal appeared on local news, morning shows, and podcasts. People across the country expressed outrage, asking how a man who served his country could be treated as a criminal simply because of the color of his skin. Meanwhile, Jamal's federal civil rights lawsuit moved forward. The city of Columbus hired top legal defense teams, but the case was strong. There were 4 camera angles, multiple witnesses, a receipt proving payment, a military veteran with an impeccable record, and an officer who had been terminated for a history of racial bias. Jamal's attorney, Captain Rachel Morgan prepared every detail meticulously. During a deposition, Todd Harrison sat across from Jamal. The tension in the room was palpable. Todd was defensive, frustrated, and desperate to justify his actions. Jamal, on the other hand, remained calm and composed, his military discipline evident in every posture and gesture. "Sir," Todd said, avoiding eye contact, "I was following protocol. The manager said there was theft." Jamal's voice was steady. "You ignored the receipt, ignored witnesses, ignored the cameras, and still arrested me. How is that following protocol?" "I responded to a call. I did what any officer would do," Todd said. Jamal leaned forward slightly. "You acted on assumptions. You acted on the color of my skin. You had no evidence. Do you understand that?" Todd stiffened. I was doing my job." "Your job is to protect and serve," Jamal said. "Not to humiliate innocent citizens, not to handcuff a combat veteran in front of a crowd, not to cause lifelong damage to their reputation. Do you even see that?" Todd didn't answer. He could feel the weight of every camera angle, every witness, every piece of evidence in that room. He realized, too late, that the system had caught him this time. The public outcry intensified as the case progressed. Community leaders, civil rights organizations, and veteran groups spoke out. "This is unacceptable," said a representative from the NAACP. "We cannot allow racial profiling to continue under the guise of law enforcement." Jamal Williams' story is a warning. Jamal received dozens of messages daily. Thank yous, personal stories of false accusations, and encouragement from people who have faced similar injustices. Some shared experiences of being stopped by police without cause. Others stories of racial profiling in stores, neighborhoods, and public spaces. Jamal realized his case had become more than just his fight. It had become a symbol. Inside the courtroom, his lawyer, Captain Morgan, presented the evidence methodically. "Here is the receipt showing payment for every item, including the bottled water. Here is the footage from 4 cameras, showing him scanning each item and completing payment. Here are eyewitness statements confirming he paid. And here, Officer Harrison's record shows a clear pattern of bias and improper arrests over 5 years." The city's lawyers struggled to respond. They attempted to argue that Jamal had been argumentative and disorderly. But with video evidence and multiple witnesses confirming his calm behavior, their argument quickly fell apart. During one tense deposition, a conversation between Jamal and the city attorney turned heated. "Mr. Williams," the attorney said, "why did you confront the officer? Why not just comply?" Jamal's voice was firm. "Comply with what? I hadn't done anything wrong. You want me to be silent when I'm innocent? I served my country for 15 years. I have 2 Bronze Stars, and I defended civilians who couldn't protect themselves. Are you saying that my service means nothing when someone assumes I'm a criminal because I'm black?" The attorney paused. He wasn't used to this level of composure paired with righteous anger. "Your system allowed an officer with a history of racial bias to humiliate me in front of strangers. Do you understand what that does to a person? To their reputation? To their family?" The deposition was over, but the words echoed. Jamal's calm but firm explanations highlighted the human cost of false arrests and racial profiling. The attorneys for the city knew that taking this case to trial could result in even greater public scrutiny and potential jury outrage. Public support only grew stronger after Jamal agreed to share his story on a national news program. Standing in front of the cameras, dressed in his military uniform, he described the arrest, the humiliation, the physical pain to his injured shoulder, and the mental trauma of being treated like a criminal. Millions watched, and social media lit up with reactions of shock, anger, and support. Veteran groups released statements condemning the arrest. Civil rights organizations demanded accountability and policy reform. People from all walks of life began questioning how often similar incidents occurred without evidence or public attention. The story sparked debate in city councils, police boards, and media panels across the country. Even within Columbus, the conversation changed. Local stores reviewed policies, ensuring employees verified purchases before calling police. The police department implemented stricter guidelines for retail theft calls, emphasizing evidence before arrests. Todd Harrison, meanwhile, remained jobless in law enforcement, facing personal and professional consequences for choices he made in that grocery store. Despite the chaos, Jamal stayed focused. He returned to his mother's house, continued helping her with groceries, and maintained his military training. He refused to let anger control him. Every step he took was deliberate. He knew the importance of presenting himself as disciplined, calm, and unshakable. The story had shifted, no longer just about one bottle of water, but about fairness, accountability, and systemic reform. Jamal had transformed from a victim of an unjust arrest into a symbol of accountability. The media, social networks, and military backing ensured that the city, the police department, and the public could not ignore the story. The arrest of a black military hero over $2 had become a national lesson on racial bias, systemic failure, and the power of evidence-backed justice. After the lawsuit, Columbus was forced to face the consequences of its failure to protect a citizen. Officer Todd Harrison's termination made national headlines. The department issued a statement explaining that the internal investigation revealed a pattern of bias and repeated disregard for proper procedure. Todd's attempts to find work in law enforcement failed completely. 9 different departments rejected his applications. He eventually found work as a security guard at a warehouse, earning $16.50 an hour. He had lost his apartment, his fiancée left him, and the weight of public humiliation followed him wherever he went. For Jamal Williams, life slowly returned to normal, but it was forever changed. He continued helping his mother with her recovery, shopping for groceries, and maintaining his active duty responsibilities. He avoided Save Mart entirely, a constant reminder of what had happened. Yet his story had become larger than himself. News reports highlighted his service record: 15 years in the Army, 2 Bronze Stars, a Purple Heart, and a spotless record. People across the country were outraged that someone who had risked his life for his country could be treated like a criminal over a single bottle of water. The settlement included $340,000, but it also forced the city and the Columbus Police Department to reform. Policies were changed immediately. Officers were now required to review security footage before making arrests for retail theft. All patrol officers received body cameras, with strict rules on activation. Quarterly audits were implemented to monitor arrests by race, and an independent review board was established to examine use of force incidents. These measures were a direct result of Jamal's case and sent a message that racial bias and assumptions could no longer go unchecked. A public apology was required by the settlement. The Columbus police chief held a press conference with Jamal present. Jamal arrived in full military dress uniform. His ribbons and medals told a story of bravery and service that contrasted sharply with the injustice he had faced. The chief read a prepared statement acknowledging that Jamal had been wronged, that the arrest was unjustified, and committing the department to reforms designed to prevent a repeat of the incident. Then Jamal stepped forward to speak. "I served this country for 15 years, he said, his voice calm but firm. "I've been deployed to combat zones twice, been wounded, led soldiers in dangerous operations, and defended freedom. And when I came home, I got arrested for buying groceries. Not because I did anything wrong, but because I am black. That tells you how we are seen in this country. Not as citizens, neighbors, veterans, but as threats. That has to change." His words resonated across the nation. Every major news outlet in Ohio and across the U.S. covered the story. The footage of Jamal scanning groceries, paying with his debit card, and being handcuffed while holding groceries went viral. Millions watched, and millions shared their outrage. Discussions about racial profiling, bias in law enforcement, and accountability flooded social media. People debated how often similar incidents happen without evidence, without witnesses, and without public attention. Save Mart also faced consequences. Laura Kensington, the store manager who had called the police, was fired. The company issued a public apology and updated their policy to require verification of purchases before contacting law enforcement. Management underwent training on bias, racial profiling, and proper procedure for suspected theft. Jamal's experience became a case study used across multiple corporations to prevent similar incidents in retail environments. Todd Harrison, once a police officer with 5 years of experience, struggled to rebuild his life. His termination was a permanent mark on his record. In interviews after the fact, he insisted he had done nothing wrong, that Jamal had been uncooperative, and that he had followed protocol. But the evidence told a different story. 4 camera angles, multiple eyewitnesses, the store manager's admission, and his own pattern of biased arrests left him no defense. His career in law enforcement was over. Meanwhile, Jamal returned to active duty and eventually received a promotion to sergeant major. His story became an example of accountability in the military and civilian worlds. He occasionally returned to Columbus to help his mother, doing grocery shopping himself, but avoiding Save Mart entirely. Despite this, he did not let fear dictate his actions. He spoke publicly about his experience, emphasizing the importance of standing up for justice and holding systems accountable. Police academies across the country began using Jamal's case and the Save Mart footage as a teaching tool. The lesson was simple but powerful. 1 bottle of water, 1 assumption, 1 officer acting on bias, and the consequences could ripple through lives, careers, and entire communities. Officers learned the importance of verifying evidence, listening to witnesses, and acknowledging mistakes. The story reinforced the need for accountability, training, and oversight. Jamal's case also inspired others who had faced wrongful arrests or racial profiling to speak out. People shared their stories online, creating a dialogue about systemic issues in policing, retail security, and public assumptions. The story went beyond Columbus, reaching across the United States, sparking conversations in schools, workplaces, and communities. Through it all, Jamal maintained his composure. He refused to let the injustice define him negatively. Instead, he used it as a platform for reform. His message was clear. Accountability matters, systems must be challenged, and evidence must always come before assumptions. People began to see the real cost of bias, not just the financial settlement, not just the public apology, but the emotional and physical toll on someone who had done nothing wrong. In the end, Jamal's fight ensured change. Todd Harrison lost his career, his fiancée, and his reputation. The police department implemented reforms. Save Mart updated their policies, and Jamal himself gained something deeper than money or apologies. He regained dignity, public recognition, and the knowledge that standing firm against injustice can lead to meaningful change. The story remains a cautionary tale about assumptions, bias, and the power of evidence. A single bottle of water, a single receipt, and a single officer's decision had caused chaos. But it also sparked reform, awareness, and accountability. Jamal Williams, a Black military hero, had turned an experience of humiliation and injustice into a lasting impact that would continue to educate and protect others. Jamal's advice to anyone watching is simple. Always document your actions, know your rights, stay calm in the face of injustice, and never underestimate the power of evidence. His story is taught today, not just in police academies, but in corporate training programs, schools, and civic leadership courses. It is a reminder that even ordinary actions, like buying groceries, can reveal larger truths about fairness, bias, and the need for systemic change. And for Jamal, the lesson is personal. He continues to help his mother, serve his country, and advocate for accountability. One bottle of water, one receipt, one officer's biased choice. It changed lives, careers, and policies. But through it all, Jamal's courage and discipline ensured that justice, finally, was served.